Wherever there's an incredible value for others, a love for others, that is where people just thrive.
Well, good morning. Good morning. It is Monday. Here in Calgary, it's freezing cold, minus 20, minus 30 with the wind chill. It's rough. You know, we've been pretty spoiled here in Calgary. Not sure about wherever you are from, but for us Calgarians, we have been spoiled, and it's still freezing cold. But I'm warmed up by being joined by my wife. And
that was nice.
David.
That was smooth.
Welcome.
Smooth line. That one worked for you.
Smooth line. I know this weather is reminding me.
You still got game dude.
Yeah.
Always.
This weather is like Winnipeg weather. We're bringing our roots back to us. Holy
We have some
smokes.
Winnipegger friends with us right now, and as we were all leaving church yesterday, we're all starting our cars and warming it up, and I was just like complaining, and they were like, this isn't that bad.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, this is really bad. This is really
5
bad.
days ago, it was 13 degrees in Calgary.
Yes.
I know, plus 13,
Like
yep.
great fall golfing weather.
Oh.
And now it's minus 26 in a matter of 4 days,
snow's
right?
all back. I know there was some green grass in some spots. It was pretty wild. So we're
Well,
feeling it.
in handling the cold, I've lost my Winnipeg roots.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I've become so soft. Like, growing up as a kid, you'd be like minus 30. My parents would put on my hockey gear in our front door, and I'd walk across the street to Varsity View to play hockey, no problem.
Yeah.
And now it's like
For
minus
hours.
8. It's like,
I know.
I'm going to stay inside.
It
I know,
is
it's
bad.
exactly that. We almost went sledding the other day at COP, and it was like minus 10 or 11, and we were like, I don't know.
It was you, actually.
I wanted to go.
No.
Yeah, I wanted to go. I said we should go, and then you were saying, it's pretty cold out.
No.
Well, we remember it differently. What I do
Are we
remember.
even Canadians?
Yeah, seriously. Like, what is going on?
What's happening here?
I'm curious, for those who are watching online with us in our comments here, did you guys see our accidental, not real pregnancy announcement from our 4-year-old
gosh, I was
on
like,
Friday?
what are we talking about?
And gosh, we got so many texts from that. That was ridiculous.
Yep,
And
I laughed out loud when I saw that.
Oh man, for those who don't know, we brought on Billy. Our childcare fell through, and we brought on Billy, and we're just talking, and thought you guys would enjoy meeting her and talking with her, and then randomly she goes,
Yeah.
and mommy's got a baby in her tummy. And we're just like, oh my Lord. We're not pregnant right now, not that we know of. But anyway, it was hilarious. It was funny. So that was a bit of a
Caught us off guard.
Fun experience heading into the weekend. We got all sorts of
It's
messages
awesome
and
you brought
texts.
Billy on. I love the fact that the kids were coming through.
I know, we should bring Gabe.
We should have them more often.
Bring your kid to work day, but sometimes
Totally we should.
it surprises you when they actually get on set.
We should get all the cousins one day, line them up all across the
Would be
way,
very cute.
and
We
see what would happen.
That would be hilarious.
It
It'd be a
would
lot.
be.
It'd be a full couch. And that's one of the things that's so cool is that we have a very large family. When we
Yeah.
get together, you have to be ready for noise,
Yeah.
chaos, destruction, crying,
It is
and
a
a lot of
lot.
fun too. Like
Yeah.
it's all built in together, and yeah, it's crazy. And that's one thing we want. We always want you guys to see our family, see the chaos, That's something we always get people asking questions. I find at church they'll be like, what's it really like? I'm like, what you see is what you get. This is who we are. What you're seeing on stage is
Yeah.
exactly who we are, and we're as real as they come and
Yeah.
as flawed as they come, and that's just
Well,
that's who we
family
are.
life and work is really all melded together.
Mm-hmm.
And that, Leon Sally started that with raising, obviously, all you guys.
Yeah.
And then as we join the family, start having kids, it's one big...
It is.
You go hard when you go hard, you
Yeah.
play hard, and then kids are always caught in the middle
Yeah.
somewhere.
Oh, for sure.
Totally.
Trying to figure it out. Makes them resilient, though.
Yep.
And
It
they learn
does.
so much on the go. Like, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
Like being able to have Gabe around work, around church, seeing the passions grow, seeing family all work and play together and figure out things out together. It's awesome. Like being able to integrate everything.
You were reading today's devotional. It's about culture and family culture.
Yeah.
And the thing to me that I find, and I'm curious, David, to ask you, obviously we know our take on our family and our culture, and we defend it and work hard to create it. But do you find that you have to be intentional about it as you...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like you have, like, by intentional, we actually have to sit down and talk, what do we want our family to be like? That's like, let's define intentional.
Yeah.
Because if you're not intentional, especially about culture develops no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's there.
It's a force that is going to develop. And whether, if you're not intentional about it, a culture will develop that you don't have any control over, or at least you don't want, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
So we say, well, what do we want to be in our home? Well, big thing for us is we always want joy in our home with Gabriel.
Yeah.
We always want him to know that home is fun, it's a joyful, it's a place that you can, that you're not only just safe, but the joy of the Lord is in our home.
Yep.
That's our biggest thing. And number two, one of the things we always talk about is that our house will, I love what Joshua says, that as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Oh, they got a photo of my family. How did you guys get that? Probably got it from my wife. That's Gabriel.
Hey, go back to Gabe. Honestly,
Yeah, let's go back to Gaby, baby.
He's
Not a baby anymore. That's at his first, so he's not 3 yet. He's at his first skating lesson, and he just got off the ice there.
So cute.
And he pretty much spent most of the time on his knees, but he did stand. He did not cry, and he had big smiles, so we figured it was a giant win.
I love it.
So we're getting him going already. What a sweet boy.
For sure.
His smile is what gets me every time. I love it.
I know, it's adorable. But yeah, you're right. Like it's intentional, and then also, I don't know. I find being a dad, you have to be so intentional. I find, because life will happen and busyness comes, and there'll be these seasons that I find that you and I go through, and I can primarily only speak for myself here, where you go through it and you kind of bear down and get through the season because you're going, this is nuts, this is crazy, this is chaos, and then all of a sudden I'll have these moments being like, am I being intentional? Like, am I actually raising my children with intention and talking about their personalities and their problems? And like, even this morning, hey, as I sat down with the kids and waking them up, getting them ready for school, Sloan brought something up to me where she was like, I was asked to do something and I was self-conscious about it and I decided not. And so I just went, nope, I don't want to do it. And so like in the chaos of getting ready for work and running around and getting them ready, she decided to just share with me. And so I'm going, what my temptation to do right there is go, get ready, come on, let's talk about it later, let's go, we got to run. Like, but I'm like, she's opening to me now, and I have to be her father right now. And those are hard moments to do. Those are hard to kind of stay present and do it because we're so task driven.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I preached a message about looking forward into your future, but not too far, because if you look too far, you lose what's right in your hand, what you've been entrusted to.
Yeah.
And that temptation's huge. And if you're always looking far beyond, your culture of your family will be wrecked and ruined, and you won't be able to handle adversity, and and you destroy what's right in front of you.
And I feel like if you're not intentional, who are you allowing to be that person in your family's life to create that culture? Are you allowing the world's culture to just kind of get in? And I think sometimes you don't even realize that you're not. Maybe it's just the busyness of life and things are moving and going in fast pace. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness. And I think in that way, like you said, I grew up in like everyone has busy households, but like, with dad pastoring and working, and we were at church every single day. And it was just one of those things. But like, I'm truly grateful that mom and dad were intentional with what they did. Even if life gets busy, like you still can slow things down to a degree to be like, okay, how do we want this to go? And who do we want speaking into our children's lives so often? And all those little things, I think you have to be intentional. You have to make sure that you're setting the bar for what you want for your family, or somebody else is going to do it. And then what are you going to do? So it's very hard to...
Especially as your kids absorb everything.
Totally.
They see, and you're also teaching, when you're establishing culture, you're inadvertently teaching them what a culture should be.
Yeah.
And if you're not, then they're absorbing something else that they potentially could pass on to their kids and move on. Like that's a big deal for me. Is being that, so that they can see, even when they don't realize they're learning, they're absorbing what you're putting into their home,
for sure.
A huge portion of our audience is grandparents. What do you guys think? Do you think grandparents can have an effect on culture in their grandchildren and their homes? Or what would you suggest that they do? I watching Leon do his thing with the motorbike and just coming in and bedtimes and trying to do all these little things was some of the coolest things I've seen. About being, he was positively reinforcing our family culture as a grandparent in our home. And that was one of the coolest things to see.
Came alongside you guys though. Right?
He submitted to that
as
culture.
grandparent, he didn't try to force his will, his thoughts that are different than yours. If he thought you guys could learn something, he would talk to you guys privately and say, hey, maybe think about this. But I think when grandparents can come alongside the parents in the sense and help reaffirm it, but then bring that joy, bring that fun, bring the side of things that you can, that is a massive support. Because I know with Gabriel and all his grandparents that are left there, like he loves them. He loves them all. And And it's such a blessing having grandparents
Yeah,
around.
it is.
It's such a blessing to be able to be a part of that, right?
For sure it is. And I find, the thing that I find is that sometimes when I talk with some donors and people that are calling in and connecting, that they feel almost distant and unable to connect because there's just, it's difficult in the busyness of the young children's lives and et cetera, et cetera. But I want to encourage anyone who is maybe feeling that way, just contribute where you can and drop off something where you can, and don't expect too much. Like you said, come alongside, not in. And as you come alongside, you'll probably continue to be brought in, because there's two totally different positions of life. And that's one thing that the reason I bring up Leon's examples was because sometimes you just drop in and you'd hear the motorbike all of a sudden, just it'd be like the kid's bedtime, 9 o'clock, and all of a sudden you hear, and the kids are like, is that Pops? Is that Pops? And then sure enough, you'd knock on the door and you'd be like, you guys cool if I put them to bed? And we're like, yeah, for sure. Like, that's great. We get a break tonight. And so that was really cool. And so it's just random little mini memories. Or like even back to the motorbike as well, he would sometimes just come and give them quick rides and then go. And it was just a mini memory for them, a little moment where he'd be like, you guys go grab a coffee. I'll take them for a couple of little mini rides. You just kind of go around in a roundabout circle with them. And to them, it was like they were riding on the Deerfoot. Like to them, it was the coolest thing in the world. But small moments like that. And I think back to my memories of my grandparents as when I was a little one. And I don't remember our financial situation. I don't remember our problems. I don't remember this. I remember the little memories of skating or riding the John Deere with my grandpa, or helping him cut the grass, or helping him clear the snow we had a creek that we'd always clear for hockey at my grandpa's place. And I just remember those little tiny moments of just feeling important or helping out in little tiny things that were special. And it really helps me posture and create the culture of my home now. And if you've never thought about culture at home, I can't encourage you enough to be intentional about it, to think about it, to pray about it, to go to the Word of God and say, okay, what does our culture want to be? There's times where you and I sit down and we'll be like, what has been allowed to happen here? We need to now put a line in the sand and say, this is enough. We have to change this because it's corrupted. It just kind of creeps into the culture if you're not intentional about it. But that comes through feeding on the Word and letting the Word of God kind of set you up and correct you and change your belief systems and kind of allow you to posture it in the right way. You know, today is the beginning of February. What's it, February 3rd. And it being February 3rd, we actually have a new resource bundle. And the resource bundle is an amazing thing that we've put together here at the Miracle Channel to allow you as viewers to get resource, get God's Word, shift your belief systems every single day so that you can kind of just allow it to just allow you to go forward confidently into all the uncertainties we have. You know, one of the questions that I'd love to ask you after we see the resource bundles, I want to kind of talk to you guys a little bit about our situation in our government right now. It's I don't want this to be an overtly political show, but we have to be fully aware of what's happening, how to pray for it, how to speak to someone about it. Yesterday I was at the gym. As I'm at the gym, I got my headphones in and I'm just doing some weights, and all of a sudden my song ended so I could hear the two guys talking next to me. And they were talking Justin Trudeau, Trump, tariffs, our country, uncertainty. And so I took my headphones out and I was like, I'm going to allow, if they allow me to, join this conversation and be able to hopefully speak some hope into them, to be a light in the darkness. And that only comes if you know what's happening and how to talk about it and where we are postured as believers and Christians. And so I kind of want to actually help you with that. If you wouldn't mind, we kind of go into that a little bit. But first, take a look at this resource bundle. Before we hit play, also I want to remind you, you can always call in, 1-800-815-6513. And that allows you to connect, to pray if you're believing for something. If you're maybe worried about what's happening in the political world, call, ask for prayer. If you feel hopeless, ask for prayer. There's people right now ready to connect with you, so make sure you always call in, especially when we're live, and there's people right here, right now. Take a look at the resource bundle.
God gave us a foundational truth in His Word, the principle of sowing and reaping. Many Christians misunderstand this principle to be about money only. In reality, whatever you plant in your life will produce a harvest. Your job is to make sure what you're planting will produce the harvest you want to see. For the month of February only, ask about receiving this devotional workbook, scripture declarations, and a thought-provoking audio message from Miracle Channel's own Jeremy Prest. Learn 7 important truths to plant in your heart that will set you up to abide in God's love and thrive in every area of life. Call 1-800-815-6513 right now to claim this offer. with your recurring monthly gift or a one-time donation of $35. Call now and ask for February's Abide Bible Study Bundle, available this month for the Miracle Channel family.
You know, when I see the resource bundle for this month, it's been a topic that has always been on my heart. In my beginning walk with God is always about sowing and reaping, sowing and reaping. I'd watched Jesus say, if you don't know this, then you won't be able to understand anything I say. And I remember taking that to heart as a young 15, 16-year-old young man and realizing, all right, I want to understand this principle of sowing and reaping. And so that's kind of, it always almost flows out of almost every message that I do. And so the team put together this resource bundle because I believe you as a believer, you have to get this at such a profound level that it begins to transform you so that you understand sowing and reaping. And one of the things you'll see, and I think it says on one of the opening pages, I think it's the second or third page, it says you can very quickly find out what you've been sowing by seeing what you currently are reaping.
Yeah.
And that's a very sobering thought, and it's pretty wild. And speaking of the sowing and reaping, I want to talk about what our country has been sowing and what we're currently reaping.
That's the right way to put it, actually.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about track record. How do you judge someone? You never judge them based off their intention, because it's impossible to know. Like, if I want to judge, why did Tamara do that? I cannot guess what your heart is to do something. I don't know what, unless you actually speak it, and I believe you're speaking truth. But I can judge Tamara based on what has she done over the last 10 years of her life, last 5 years of her life, watching her like with her kids. She's a great mom, and like you see track record and that kind of stuff built. That's how you judge people. So how do we judge our government? You judge your government, right? A lot of times it's hard to say, are they saying that because they want to stay in power? Are they saying that because they have to compromise because they're trying to win somewhere else? What's their track record show? And I think every Christian, every citizen needs to get good at understanding and being analytical about what's the track record of the government, to first off, to help me predict, are they going to do a good job for our country going forward? Anyways, it's a lot of interesting stuff going on right now.
Lots. Like really, really, really big stuff. And that's why I do actually want to quickly touch on it here for just 3 or 4 minutes, and so that we really can be aware of it. For those who don't know, this being the beginning of February, on the weekend became the deadline for our country to meet the needs or negotiations of President Trump from the United States about him imposing a 25% tariff on Canada and on Mexico, and a bunch of other things are happening. And so what that essentially means is that it's going to affect our trade between the countries in a drastic way, whether or not we continue to trade some of these resources back and forth, and how much money and profit is being brought into the country or out of Canada, and what that's going to do to our markets. And so one of the things that David and I talk about, especially on Citizen, and I want to encourage you to go watch Citizen. We can talk a lot about what Canada's doing and what's happening as citizens. And for those who don't know, it's a podcast that him and I do where we talk about kind of current events and our reflections on it, and opinions, and just wrestle through the ideas of good ideas and bad ideas. And the whole point of that is to be aware and to constantly be aware. And so, but it doesn't seem like our leadership or our country is necessarily putting Canada first right now. We are facing a lot of uncertainty, and for some reason we're in a leadership race for the current party that's holding office, and we shouldn't be doing that. We should honestly be putting Canada first and figuring out how do we solve these impending economic uncertainty that's in front of us.
Well, it's a big one. Actually, some updated news as of today. You have Canada has a 25% tariffs. Trump announced this morning he's actually giving a 1-month delay to Mexico. He's not implementing the tariffs for 1 month after talking to the president, because the president has basically said, we're willing to put 10,000 Mexican soldiers along the border to help with illegal immigrants, drug, that kind of stuff.
Fentanyl.
So they bought themselves time, obviously. And Trump has talked about 10% tariffs on China. But there was a phone call between Justin Trudeau and Donald Trump this morning. I don't know if it went well based off of Trump's tweet. They're going to be talking again in the afternoon, so we'll see if he is able to buy time. Like, how have they been speaking? This is my opinion. I think we kind of are on the same page. I think their approach has been wrong in terms of going dollar for dollar, tariff for tariff. I don't think that's the right approach. So we're going to have to see how that works out.
And what you're saying is, you're saying that Canada's approach to it has been retaliatory.
Exactly. In the sense of, you're going to do this to us, well, guess what? And Canada has leverage. For sure we do. We supply a lot of energy where U.S. the U.S. is #1 trade partner, which is a big deal for them, but it's a way bigger deal for us.
Yeah.
It's a 10 times bigger deal for us. So
Sure it is.
it's like we use a poker analogy. It's like going up against someone who's got like $1 million in chips, and we've got $10,000 in chips, right? It's just like
you can only hold it for so long.
time's against you for the most part, unless like a miracle happens.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see how they're going to go. I'm kind of like sitting back and watching, because actually, I'll say this: we're not sitting back and watching. We're actually speaking up quite a bit. Now, the biggest thing right now, Canada deserves an election. Yeah. I was really disappointed that Justin Trudeau did not answer in question period when someone said, "Are you going to open up Parliament again so we can go back?" And he diverted and basically essentially said, "No, we're not going to. We are equipped to handle this as we should." Yeah. I don't think Canadians have confidence in that. Yeah. And the right, responsible thing to put Canadians first would be to call an election. To put your party first would be to not call an election. Yep. Like, it's clear as day, no matter what people say. But.
Yep. Yeah, and we have to have strong opinions about this. Every single believer and citizen needs to know why they believe what they believe, question things, get involved, really get involved. Something you've said a lot. And that's Conrad Black's quote, I believe, where it says, "You get the country you deserve." Or sorry, you get the government.
You get the government you deserve.
And so, what that essentially is meaning is like, what have we sown, and here we are reaping. We have we held them accountable or not? Have we allowed these ideas to continue to rise to the top? And so, yeah, we have to get involved. We have to call. We have to talk. It's okay for believers to have strong opinions and get involved. That's literally what we're told to do and guided to do, as believers do. Yeah. And so we have to make sure we know what's taking place here, because it's going to affect our future generations, our future investments.
And I'm just going to say, for those who maybe don't know a lot about the political stuff, I know it seems like I'm biased, but I do find that Citizen is one of those things that it's very easy to listen to, and I find that you guys explain it well for people to understand, no problem. So I am kind of putting you out there, but I just mean, honestly, I think sometimes when people don't want to get involved, or maybe they don't understand everything, they'd rather just be like, it's fine, I don't really care, I don't want to take, but I feel like just even being aware of what's going on, you don't need it to be to the point of an obsession, and it's something that's of anxiety to you. Because I know we've had random people just reach out and just be like I think it's just it's so despairing to hear of the things that are going on.
And I didn't plan for this connection here I'm going to make. No, what I mean about what I'm about to say is that we were talking family culture, but actually this is the exact same thing. Is if I as a father in my family culture go, it's just I'm too busy, I don't want to know. It's like, well, then you're picking a default culture, and it's going to poison your family, and your children are going to pay the price. And that same thing can happen in our country if we're taking the same thing, where it's like, I'm too busy and I don't want to know. It's like, I know we're all so busy, but I kind of want to challenge everyone to be like, it's too important to be too busy. It's way too important.
And that's what I was just saying. Just be aware. Totally. Put on a couple episodes while you're doing, even now I do that with messages and different pastors that I'm listening to. It's important to do it for the country, your country that you live in as well. Just be aware of what's going on. And
you had an opportunity, you mentioned in the gym, hearing some guys talking about it. That's a little thing that makes big differences.
Totally.
The awareness and at least having understanding, maybe having a thought on it. When you hear other people talking, you're now able to have a conversation. And it's within, I always call it the dinner table conversation. Around the dinner table with the family or friends or water cooler at work, whatever cliche conversation you want to throw in there, is you have an opportunity if people say things that maybe aren't as informed or don't know. If you know, you can bring clarity. And if a lot of people do that, that actually starts to move the needle now.
Totally.
And eventually people get to a point where, we're going to try to do more than just wait for an election. And that's the only time we express our voice.
And these two young guys, one thing they said right then and there, they're like, how did we get into this? They're probably 17 years old. These are young dudes. They're 17, 18 years old. They're like, how did we get into this? And then he goes and says this, and I don't know if there's any substantial anything to this, but he goes, even Africa is making better steps than we are. And that's what he said. And I was like, I have nothing to say about that. I don't know.
Well, certain countries have made tremendous progress.
Strides.
I was talking with a friend that was in the States last week. They do a lot of work in Rwanda. And unbeknownst to us, since the Rwandan genocide, you look at how much that country has progressed. it's unbelievable the stuff that they have done to come together and grow, and the cleanliness and the growth of the cities and the economy that's there. Like, so there's definitely, you look in even Eastern European countries, a lot of them have actually had better growth than Canada over the last 10 years.
So great.
Like, we have negative growth. You look at where we're at, we haven't grown in the last 5-6 years.
And we shouldn't be. We have so much opportunity and resource and power and people and connections, and there just shouldn't be. It's just not the case. And we just haven't set ourselves up for success, and it's wild. I didn't mean to talk about that long, but I hope that you guys you can see the passion there, because it just affects everything we do. It affects the ability for charity, like Miracle Channel, to go and do charity. It affects trade and business and family and future and growth and job opportunities and careers. Like, all of it's affected, which is ultimately the believer's entire role in life. And so we have to stay connected. We have to stay aware. And gosh, anyway, so that's my thoughts on that. Back to family culture is, I really think the same thinking along with this is that you cannot allow your culture of your family to be default. You cannot allow you guys to just sit by the wayside. You've been entrusted to be a steward of your children, your family, your future, and into their adult life, to set them up to handle problems and issues. And we have to be so intentional about family culture. You know, Tamara just pointed something out, that this devoted devotional talks about family culture for a week. You know what I mean? It's that important that it's like, and it comes from Leon's teachings and preaching, where it's like, we must be so intentional about family culture that it's day in and day out. You are always ready to protect your culture, because when trials come, it's a moment where the culture is going to be shaped whether you like it or not. Yeah. You handle it or not. Culture's still being shaped, and you have to be so intentional about that.
Yeah, and if people have like specific questions, like throw it in and let us know. I feel like this is a wonderful topic that we can continue to talk about this week. And so I feel like for tomorrow's episode, future episodes, we can definitely dive into more specific things. Like, what do you mean? Like, what is it that you do? Or how did you do this? You know, all those types of things I think are really neat to see and learn from. So if people do have questions, then just let us know, because it's a great topic to talk about.
Yeah, it is. In the last few seconds that we have here, I want to encourage you guys to like, subscribe, follow us. Bring in the comments and questions, concerns, or even just disagreements. And like Tamara said, we'll bring them up to the top. We'll talk about them. We'll wrestle with them. And that's the whole point. My favorite thing about our family is that we wrestle with concepts constantly. Thank you for joining us today. God bless you guys. We'll see you same time tomorrow.
Thrive is only made possible by the generous donations of people like you. 100% of your donation goes towards ministry efforts. Call today and make a significant impact in the lives of Canadians. Through your financial investment, you are a missionary to the world. Phone lines will remain open for a limited time. Connect with us now by calling 1-800-815-6513 or visit miraclechannel.ca/thrive to leave your comments, prayer requests, and praise reports. Together, let's thrive.